on?
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Goebel and I'm here today with Lulu David, who's a member of our SLOW Bike Safety Committee.
Yes, thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
So I'm going to be asking you a few questions today. The first of which is, how can someone be sure that their helmet is fitted properly?
Yes, totally. I know a lot of people do wear helmets, but it can be a little bit tricky to understand exactly how you're going to want it to fit. And there's kind of like three main things that I make sure that I focus on, and one of them is size. You're going to want to make sure that the helmet is snug and level with your forehead. Number two is position. You're going to want to make sure that the top of your helmet doesn't come more than 2 fingers above your eyebrow. So you don't want it up here and you also don't want it just down here, otherwise it could fly off. And then also side straps and buckles, you're going to want to make sure that that kind of forms a V right here so your helmet would stay on your head in a crash. And the final thing you can do is make sure that if you shake your head with your helmet on, it is going to stay on there.
Sounds good. We wouldn't want the helmet falling off, would we?
No.
What aspects of infrastructure in SLOW both support and hinder bikers in your opinion?
Yeah, SLOW is a bike heavy town, and I think everybody knows that, and there are a lot of bike lanes, which is super helpful, but a lot of people in SLOW aren't exactly the best drivers or looking out for the bikers at hand, but making sure that there is those bike lanes and that drivers respect them is incredibly important. And also there is some new infrastructure that is being developed that I think is kept kind of on the down low, not on purpose obviously, but there's some new bike lockers coming in downtown, and they're super cheap, 35 cents an hour I think. And so that's some option if you want to bike downtown but are worried about getting your bike stolen.
That's some really great information. How would you say that varies from the infrastructure on Cal Poly's campus?
Definitely. Cal Poly, obviously, you take one step on that campus and there's bikes everywhere, left, right, whatever. But there's also those bike lanes that kind of go through campus and that flow that really can get disrupted during the middle of classes and whatnot. But there is some really good resources on campus. There's a bike kind of those stations. Have you seen them? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I have.
So there's air, there's wrenches, and there's some located on PCV, there's some located down by Campus Market, and those are some really great options if you get to campus and you think, oh my goodness, my bike tire is low on air, or you want to tighten up some screws or the chain is off, whatever, that can be a good option for you.
Thanks for sharing. What are some more resources for people that they can help educate themselves on bike safety with?
Totally. I think that's a hard one, but one thing that I think everybody can do is stay off their phone. Even if you're not a biker, that is a great one to make sure that, not that there's research or resources for exactly educating about bike safety, but that's a good one. And SLOW County does have a bike kitchen, which is a cool area where you can get parts, take your bike to get fixed, and also kind of just have a community around bikers so you can understand different parts of the biking community, and if you want to learn some new routes or anything like that. And also I want to emphasize Pulse on campus. They have a lot of great resources. If you are a Cal Poly student, you can go and they can give you free bike lights. I know that the county is trying to implement a program right now for free helmets, so if you're in need of a helmet, you can get one of those for free to make sure you're being extra safe on the road.
Those are definitely some great tools. Do you know if there's any sort of educational curriculum in the local school system about this information?
Yeah, I actually worked for the county for a little bit, and they have a really incredible peer kind of education program, and people will go into schools and kind of underscore the importance of biking and also not distracted driving. A lot of the kids will be like, my mom uses her phone while she drives, and understanding why that's not okay, and also understanding how to make sure that your bike is in good condition, your helmet is fitted properly. All of those are super important to making sure that as they grow up and go off, whether it be in SLOW or somewhere else, they have good education on how to be safe around bikes and how to make sure that they're having fun but also keeping people safe.
Definitely, thank you. What would you say that the education enhances when it comes to bike safety?
Yeah, I think that can be kind of hard to actually get a tangible reach on, but younger kids, it seems to have a bit of a larger impact with the fact that we can notice on Cal Poly campus, and like with tourists there seems to be a lack of awareness around it. But I think education, knowing about resources that are available, and also understanding kind of the impact of a lack of education. I mean, if we think about it, Cal Poly in particular has had a rough time. There's been a lot of bike deaths, and especially with Sean Hillman last year, that was really heartbreaking. And obviously, that's a way to understand that not just bikers are the ones who need to be making sure that they're educated, but also distracted drivers, right? Making sure that they understand the impacts of their actions and how they can keep everyone in our community safe is super important.
Of course. And if someone out of all of these bikers on campus and off campus and in the surrounding slope community were going to go out for a ride, what would you say are the things that they definitely need to check before they go out?
Yeah, I definitely think there's 3 major things, and that's the ABC check, which is just so cute and fun, honestly, but it's air, brakes, and chain. So air is super important when you want to check the air pressure of your tires. You don't want a tire that's overfilled and too bouncy, but you also don't want something that's flat. Brakes, obviously important to make sure that you have control over your ride and what's happening. And the way you can kind of check that is obviously by testing it while you're on the bike, but also making sure that if you look visually at the brakes, that it's not rubbing against anything, the wheel when you spin it. And then chain, just make sure it's clean. It shouldn't be rusty. It shouldn't have any sort of black gunk on it. It should be working smoothly. And if there is ever a doubt, there are those resources that I mentioned earlier on campus in particular to make sure that everything is moving smoothly.
Thank you. That's a really great checklist. Our final little question today, it's kind of like the root of our interview. It's something that we really emphasize. And we want to ask you today, does anything bike safety really matter? And do we have the agency, do you think, to make people, especially teenagers and college students, actually wear helmets if they don't want to?
Yeah. I think people are going to do what they're going to do, right? I mean, a lot of people don't wear helmets because they're like, oh, it's not cool, whatever. But if that's a preconceived notion they have, especially with younger kids, or not younger kids, but even people who are in their teens or in college, if they think they're not going to get hurt, then they're not going to be able to just start putting on a helmet because they don't see that as a perceived risk, right? But if we keep educating and understand and informing people about the resources that are available to them, and that there is help, and that if something does impact their lives and they realize the way that they want to take control of their bike safety and understand how they can help the community, that will be there for that, and that we have those resources, and that we can be as safe as we can with like the bike kitchen, like I mentioned before, or just even checking their air brakes and chains. By educating people through that, they might just take that one little step to understand and keep our community safer.
Well, thank you for sharing your time and expertise with us today, and thank you for sharing your information. It was very helpful.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course.